hear me? Thank you for reminding me that you could not a minute before. So let's see how many people we have in class. By now, 52 students, good. Probably some other students will be coming. So my name is Alexander Vladimirovich Lissovsky. I'll be teaching this class in cross-cultural communications with another person, Mikhail Anatolievich Morozov. I've published our names in chat, so please don't be shy, address us by name. We are from this country, Russia, so the first name and patronym is fine, Alexander Vladimirovich or Mikhail Anatolievich. And by the way, one of the cross-cultural issues is that in different countries, there are different regulations and norms concerning how people address their teachers. So, for example, in the United States, it would be either a Dr. Lissovsky or Professor Lissovsky. In Germany, it would be even more complicated, Herr Professor Lissovsky, something like that. In Russia, we can happily live just with Alexander Vladimirovich. What we'll do in this class with you. And before that, couple of words about me. Initially, I was trained as social psychologist. I've got my PhD in social psychology, and I teach social psychology and do social psychological research. Then when I traveled to the United States, first time it happened in 1991, I've got my second degree, MA degree in sociology. I was doing international relations for 5 years, and sociology and management, so I have quite diverse interests. For this particular class, what will happen? We will alternate with Mikhail Anatolievich. So this week I'm lecturing, next week he will be lecturing, and those students who will meet with me at the seminars this week will meet Mikhail Anatolievich at the same time slot, so don't be surprised. And basically, this course has two parts. It follows from the name of the course. Cross-cultural communication. Mikhail Anatolievich' primary responsibility is communication. He was educated and trained as a communication scholar. He got his MA in communication studies. And I'll be doing everything related to cross-cultural comparisons with you. And besides that, I will be teaching the part of the course which is related to negotiations. I have both theoretical knowledge and practical experience related to negotiations. That's what we will do with you. How you will earn your grade, and hopefully it will be a high one. I would like to start immediately with a good news for you. In fact, in several previous years, there was a requirement that only those students who will get an excellent grade could do without exam. Fortunately, they changed it, and now exam is not something which is required. Those students who would like to have an exam could have it, of course. But exam will not change much, in fact. So you really need to concentrate in what you do during our classes. Your in-class activity is really essential for your final grade. And the components are following. You can look at it in the program, which is published in LMS. Just a quick overview for now. 80% of your grade will be related to the research projects, your team research projects, which you will do with your teammates. I do know that you already formed teams for your previous course. That is fine. Still, maybe it will make sense to change some of the teams. An optimal size for a team is 5 persons. 6 is admissible. 4 is admissible too. But according to our experience, 5 is an optimal size. So please make sure that your teams are diverse teams. That's how you will have fun and get a higher grade, because you will really need diverse knowledge of the matters we will consider with you for this class. So, for example, economists are very essential for the success, because for the final project, you will need to do some kind of economic analysis concerning perspective for cooperation for the countries you will be doing. I'm sharing the screen with you, and that's not a final version of the requirements for intermediate presentation. Intermediate presentation will account for 20% of your grade. Final presentation for 60%. Your in-class activity will be 10%, and exam another 10%, but you can do without exam if you will be happy with your accumulated grade. And once again, I will repeat that it's not necessarily excellent grade. If you're happy with 7, 6, 8, 5, 3, 4 points, pardon me, 3 is not something which is a possible grade, you can take it and stop at this point. If you need to pass an exam, you could do it, but exam typically could not influence dramatically your accumulated grade. So, according to our experience from the previous years, very few students make a decision to have an exam. But it's up to you. If you would like to, you'll have it. Now, what you'll be busy with during the first 2 weeks of the course. You will need to discuss with your teammates what 2 countries you'll be doing your research on. It's a little bit incorrect. I'm showing you something which we published in LMS, but that's from previous semester. So some minor correction will be made soon for this document, which is presentation 1 intermediate. Speaking about your country's choice, you will need to discuss it with your teammates. And sometime soon, I will start a project in LMS, and every team will need to upload the list of participants with their photos, please, because it will be helpful for us when we will evaluate your in-class participation. Information concerning to what department you belong, what's your specialization, and the countries you would like to choose. We will consider your suggestions, and in some cases we will advise you to choose other countries, different countries. Why? For example, we do know that we have some students from Oriental Studies department, which is fine, which is great. Many of them would like to make research on Arabic country, which is natural for them because they have knowledge, experience, they know the language, and they know a lot about Arabic countries. Make sure that at least you have chosen different Arabic countries, and there is some variation which is allowed. Your first country should be a country who belongs either to Europe or to North Americans, United States or Canada, or it also could be Australia or New Zealand. So we are talking primarily about industrially developed countries, because the majority of European countries are industrially developed. Your second country should be a country either from Latin America, Africa, or Asia. That's up to you. It's advisable to choose countries which are comparable by their size. For example, it does not make much sense to compare China with Hungary, because China is the biggest country in the world according to the size of economy and population, and Hungary is a very decent country, but a small one. Comparing, let's say, China with Australia, or China with Canada, or China with the United States makes more sense. Russia will also participate in your analysis. So you should not choose Russia as one of the 2 countries you plan to compare. For the final project, you will do some analysis related to a possible interaction of 2 countries of your choice with Russia too. Okay? So team composition, 5 or 7 persons, that's something which I already mentioned. Different specializations. In the end of this module, sometime in March, I haven't checked it yet, what date it will be. Every team will make from 10 to 12 minutes presentation. Typically, that's a presentation in PowerPoint format, but you can use some other format if you wish. And what you will submit for us for evaluation, it would be a presentation per se, a file with your presentation. And also, because that's a communication class, we will definitely evaluate how you will present. So get prepared, make sure that every member of your team has some part in presentation. Presentation definitely needs to be rehearsed and needs to use knowledge which we will share with you during our lectures and seminars. Issues to be covered in your intermediate presentation. Once again, that will happen in the end of March. You can see them on the slide, which I'm showing to you. Using different sources, you will consider cultural ideas, symbols, myths, legends, examples of artifacts, narratives, and rituals, which are essential for this country. A country's most important contribution to global culture, material and non-material. For example, inventions, artworks, etc. You consider cultural norms, distinguishing characteristics of verbal and non-verbal communication, stereotypes specific to this culture region. And you will need to analyze to what cultural clusters this country belongs based on Welser Ingelhard, Hofstede, well, there is an extra letter in his name, Hofstede, Trompenars, and other cultural dimensions. All of them will be covered in our lectures, and we will recommend some literature for you. There are some resources recommended to you. Of course, you should not limit yourself just for these resources. Um, besides using the library, which belongs to our university, and that's good that we have it, you can use some other resources. And well, now it's not exactly legal, and I would not advise it to you. I would just inform it that, for example, if you go to one of the mirrors of LibGen library, you will be able to download all kinds of full text for that reason. So please start thinking about countries of your choice as soon as possible. After I will start the project in LMS, please react quickly because, for example, if the same countries as you would prefer to do research on will be chosen by some other groups, those ones who will react faster will get an advantage. Okay? And that's an introductory part for this course. So during the seminars, we will discuss different videos, cases. I expect active participation from your part. So please don't be shy asking me questions and reacting in chat. Because being a social psychologist, I definitely know about one important phenomenon, which is called pluralistic ignorance. Putting it in a simpler word, it could be characterized as some kind of common mistake when people make during their communication. I will explain you what I mean, guys. Imagine a class which makes something which is really complicated and difficult. Like it could be some advanced math class. Teacher does his or her best to inform students, but many of them got lost during the lecture. From time to time, teacher tries to ask questions, and finally, at the very end of the class, teacher asks everybody, have you understood what I just presented to you? Do you have any questions? How Russian students typically react to this situation? I mean, students in Russia. They start looking at one another, and looks like nobody has any questions, which in fact is a wrong perception because almost every student got lost. They understand near to nothing, but they are shy to express it publicly. Why? They think something like that. Am I the only one stupid person in this class who failed to understand? By the way, American students are different in that respect. they're almost never shy asking questions. And that's something which is encouraged. And that's something which is productive. So that's something which I expect from you with Mikhail Anatolyevich, my colleague. If we are doing something and you lost something in our explanations, remarks, or whatever, please don't be shy asking questions during lectures and seminars. That's something which really help us to do our class better. Okay, guys, do you have any questions at this point? You could either ask it orally, or you can.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes, of course. Go ahead, Andrei.
I didn't quite catch it. Are we allowed to choose our first country from the entire world or just from the region of the Middle East?
No. Your first country would be something which really belongs to the first world, as you put it. So it could be either Europe or North Americans, United States and Canada, or Australia or New Zealand. Now, for example, you can choose Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Canada, whatever will be your choice. Your second culture should be something that belongs to the second world. And typically, it's a country which are located in Africa, Asia, or Latin America. Okay? Have I answered your question?
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions, guys? Once again,
yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Did I understand correctly that we form groups ourselves?
That's right. In fact, what kind of request we already heard from the groups in which we had seminars. Other students informed us that you already made some groups for a previous course, and many students would like to continue in the same groups, but it's not necessary. You can form new groups. Once again, there are two requirements. We will not assign you to any groups because, it will be something ridiculous. You could be more comfortable communicating with some people, but definitely, according to our experience, diverse groups has some advantage. It's good if you have some philologists, for example, historians, Oriental studies students, economists on your group, etc., etc., etc. Okay, your group should not include more than 6 persons. 5 is the most advisable number of students. Why 6 is worse than 5? Well, you will encounter with the risk of something which is called free rider problem. Some students will really work hard and contribute, and it happens when group has too many members that some of them will start thinking something like that. Okay, other guys will do it. I will just drop in occasionally, inspire them, and that will be my contribution. Okay? Have I answered
thank
your
you.
question, Igor?
Yes. Also, there is a question in the chat.
Yes, let me see it. Uh-huh. Well, in fact, online speaking will be necessary. You can use some videos if they're essential, but recording it in advance doesn't make sense. The question is, can we prepare video presentation or online speaking is necessary? Absolutely necessary. That's a communication class, guys. And by the way, another question that you haven't asked yet, but somebody asked me about that during the seminar. It's not English class. Of course, we will be happy if you will speak and write in good English. Still, don't be shy expressing yourself, even if you are not completely satisfied with your English. Don't be shy. It really makes sense, to speak up and to contribute to our discussion. During the final versions of your presentations, a couple of advices. We really get infuriated if instead of writing and making your presentation yourself, you just copy and steal it from somebody else using copy-paste method. Believe me, we even do not need to run it through, specialized programs, because it's always obvious when you just use somebody else's words. It's much worse compared to making some kind of mistakes. But speaking about mistakes, make sure that you really know and understand all the words which you will use in your presentation. And a very good advice would be, of course, to rehearse it. But we will talk about that issue in some more details when the date of presentation will be approaching. Please, do you have any other questions? I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah,
Do we
okay.
have to write down people in our groups, like make some kind of lists, and for example, email you to make you know who is in which groups among students? So do we have to like schedule this somehow, or we just separate on groups of 5 people by ourselves and that's it?
Okay, guys. So once again, you have some space to choose your partners. Once again, it's advisable to make your teams diverse. Don't concentrate just on people from your department. Counterproductive strategy. As I already mentioned, I will start a project tonight, and we expect you to upload to this project a list of your team members, of your suggestions concerning your country choice. Okay?
Thank you. I got it.
My pleasure. Any other questions, please?
Yeah, what do you call a first world country?
What are first world countries? Countries from industrially developed countries from Europe, like United Kingdom, Sweden, Norway, Finland. You can continue this list, France, for example, or North
China.
American countries.
Is China
United
a
States.
first world country? Is Mexico a first world country?
I would say that it's second world country. It's still developing economy. So Mexico could be your choice for the second country. Okay? Once
And what
again,
about Russia?
Developed world, all right.
Yep, that's the idea. Your second country belongs to developing countries. By the way, please don't choose Russia. Russia will be involved by every team. There will be a special assignment on that. More questions, please, if you have any.
Yeah, may I ask a question? Like,
Absolutely.
is South Korea is a country of the second world, or it's already developed one?
Well, it's first world, definitely, but here regional parameters will come into play. So, for example, we still would like to, I mean, that's cross-cultural communication plus, and South Korea definitely is a different culture. What you can do, for example, you can choose Canada and South Korea, or United States and South Korea, because South Korea is located in Asia, and Oriental cultures are different in many respects compared to this Judeo-Christian European, North American cultures. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is our countries of the Eastern Bloc of the Warsaw Pact first world or second world countries?
It depends what you are talking about. That's a good question. But at least, okay, I confuse you somewhat. So besides belonging to the first world or the second world, there is a geographical dimension. And let's concentrate on that. Let's make it easier. So stop worrying about belonging to first world or second world economy. Let's make that a geographical choice. So the first country geographically should be located either in Europe, North Americas, or it could be Australia or New Zealand. And your second country should be located either on African continent or in Asia or in Latin America. Let's do it like that. And it will be a quite visible correlation with the level of development, of course, but it could be some exceptions. Like you can take two countries which belong to the first world. As I mentioned, it could be, for example, South Korea and Canada. both of them are industrially developed, definitely. Okay. So concentrate on geographic distinction. I will edit the document which I just showed you, and I will introduce some corrections into it soon, probably tonight. Okay.
I have a question about last question about countries. What about Israel? It is not in Europe. It is not in Africa. It is not in Latin. Can we use Israel because it is not it is not uh, like it's not suitable for your geography.
Israel is definitely suitable. Israel is definitely suitable. Industrially developed country, one of the most successful economies in the world. Yeah, you can use it. Geographically, you know where it's located, but yeah, just guys, my suggestion is following. Please send me information. Please upload to the project which I'm going to start tonight with your suggestions. And if I will have any doubts and any questions, I will inform you, okay? But Israel definitely is an option. You can do Israel, no problem.
Excuse me, I have a question. Do we
Absolutely,
need to avoid the repetition? Like if one group has the same pair of countries like the other, do we need to avoid it or is it okay?
Well, first of all, definitely, because we will have these final sessions of your project presentation in groups. Definitely, we will try to avoid any repetitions inside one group. If in some other groups people will do the same countries, it's okay. I mean, once again, we will shoot for diversity. It's really interesting if we'll have a diverse set of countries, both for you and us. But some repetitions could be allowed if that's happened in a different group, not in your group. Okay, Grigory?
Okay, I see. Thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions?
Excuse me?
Absolutely.
What time exactly will you publish project in LMS today?
What time? Sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
What time, yes.
Okay, so you will have 2 weeks to finalize your country choice. The project will be published tonight probably or tomorrow morning. And we'll have 2 weeks to finalize it. I will have a look on the list of your team members. And I will, Mikhail Anatolyevich, we will have a look on your suggestions concerning countries. And we will negotiate it with you during the first 2 weeks. The first finished product, which you will need to present, it will happen in the end of March. So you will have some time to work at your project, okay? Have I answered your question?
I asked because I wanted to know if we are in time to choose our countries in LMS and be in time.
You have to.
That's okay. I understood you. That's okay.
You have 2 weeks, but sooner is better because some other teams will be choosing too. So yeah, guys, and concerning how you choose, definitely, if you have some persons on your team who speak language of the country of your choice, for example, I haven't checked it this year, but the previous years we had international students. For example, when we had a student from Brazil, of course, it could be a natural choice for a team which has a student to choose Brazil as one of the countries. Or if you have some personal experience traveling to certain countries, being educated in certain countries, and so on and so on and so on. It will also help you to choose if you have a particular interest in certain countries. But everything is negotiable. Just send us your suggestions and we will help you to finalize your choice, okay? Any other questions, or we will proceed with what I intended to discuss today with you?
Can I ask to show points of required comparisons, please?
Let's do it. You mean this slide, yeah?
Thank you.
It sits in LMS, so you can download it from LMS. I'm showing you what you can see in LMS too. Okay, guys. I still need some time to do the essential part of today's lecture. I'll be happy to answer some more questions, like, if it will happen to you that it's down to you and you have some other question, please ask it orally or type it in the chat, whatever is more convenient for you. I'll be happy to answer it. And now I will stop sharing this LMS page with you, and I will switch for my presentation for today's lecture. Okay. Oh, no. Okay, now it's coming. Okay, guys. So today we will speak about culture and cultural differences. And I will start with a very simple test for you. What you see on the screen, hopefully you can see it. These are 4 teams from 4 different countries which compete in one of the winter sports. Could you guess to what countries they belong? That's question number 1. And question number 2, which one is the Russian team? Please post your suggestions in chat. What kind of guesses do you have? Okay, I already see some of the inputs. And looks like, well, at least talking about I will give you some more time. By now, I don't see much diversity in your opinions, but maybe it just requires some time. No diversity whatsoever by now. A total unanimity. Looks like everybody thinks that the second team is Russian team. Why, guys? Could you please come up with some arguments supporting your opinion? Why the second team is Russian? You can either speak or type it. It's up to you.
I suppose that their faces look like faces of people who live in Russia.
Why? What is different for a Russian face?
It's like something that you feel in a deep in you.
Deep? I'm not sure that I...
Deep in
They are
mind.
more
deep in mind.
concentrated, probably.
Concentration. You call it concentration. Okay, maybe somebody has a simple explanation for that. I'm not sure that there is a typical Russian
Little
face.
bit bad concentration.
Okay, concentration. They're concentrated. But be a little bit more analytical. Like if you just consider what you can see, what kind of common thing can you figure out, can you notice, comparing teams number 1, 3, and 4? By the way, team number 1 are Finns, team number 3 are Italians, and team number 4 are Swedes.
Only team number 2 is mostly not smiling.
Absolutely. We've got a very simple answer. Russian team is the only one team which is not smiling. And by the way, speaking about cross-cultural comparisons, a lot of information that you get comes from our everyday life experience. And many foreigners, yeah, thank you. Some people posted in the chat, I can see it. There are no smiles. Why? Are Russian persons always more concentrated compared to Finns, Italians, or whoever it is? That's a rhetorical question. Probably they are not. By the way, not all Russians are like that. As in many other situations, Russian females appear to be somewhat smarter compared to Russian males. That's another photo on which you have Russian female team. And as you can see, a Russian female team is smiling as everybody else. So what is the essential difference? By the way, I deliberately took away the fifth person on the Russian team, and he is the only one who is smiling. Why he is smiling? He is not, he is a reserve, in fact. He will not participate in competition. That's why he is not as concentrated as everybody else. He is more relaxed. And our propensity not to smile is something which foreign visitors notice when they come to our country. Some of them even think, which is incorrect, of course, that Russian persons are a kind of, grim persons, or maybe even boring persons, or even menacing persons, which is incorrect, of course. We lived in this country, and typically I would say that absolute majority of my compatriots are friendly persons. It's something that's related to cultural norms. And that's what makes us different. It's also what happens in all kinds of business establishments. For example, many Americans who deal with Russian shopkeepers, sales clerks, or whatever, they're amazed that this person do not smile for them. And smiling is something which makes social interaction smoother. Seeing friendly face, you feel yourself more comfortable typically. Why is that? I have a partial answer to this question. Unfortunately, especially speaking about professional sports, in our country, we have a different attitude towards sports compared to many other countries. In many other countries, sports is mainly even high-level sports, which implies some pleasure. That's a game. That's not something which is live or die, issue. We perceive it differently. We perceive it as some kind of fight, struggle. And that is why, unfortunately, Russian teams are more prone for cheating at professional level sports. What you see on the next slide, that's a famous story which happened during Sochi Olympic Games. The person on the left, Grigory Rodchenkov, used to be for several years a head of Russian anti-doping agency. But in fact, instead of making sure that Russian athletes are clean and they compete honestly, he did just quite the opposite to that. He supplied them with a specially prepared set of anabolic steroids. They help endurance and they help to grow more muscles, which he called cocktail duchesse. And besides that, some other Russian officials substituted contaminated samples, contaminated urine samples, and on the next photo you have the photo of special bottles which were manufactured by Swiss firms who stated that it's not possible to open this kind of bottle so that would not be noticeable. Russian FSB officers, they learned how to do it, how to open it and close it down. But as it always happened to Russian FSB officers, recent events, which we will not discuss today definitely, proved it one more time, they made some mistakes. Like in one of the bottles, the concentration of salt was so high that the person who will have this concentration will destined to die immediately if he had that in his blood. And they pushed, firstly, they pushed these contaminated samples out of the room from this hole in the wall, and they distributed them with clean samples. This fraud was exposed, and some Russian athletes lost their Olympic gold medals. Some of them retained them, but still, you know, they were not acquitted for that. The court just ruled that there was not enough evidence, which makes the case different. Sad story, because I dedicated to sports, not really a professional level sport. It's a real part of my life. I always enjoyed it, and now sports became something else. I'm not claiming whatsoever that Russia is the only country who does it. The same ugly stories happens in different countries. What makes us different is our reaction. Like we perceive it not as something for which we need to apologize and something which need to change. We perceive it as some kind of assault on our country, at least some of my competitors, not me personally. And that's not good. Okay, let's leave the story aside. Let's move to something else. So, what we are doing with you, starting from today and later, we will be starting with you cultural awareness and cultural intelligence. And how do we get this kind of knowledge about other countries? There are several basic sources. First of all, and that's one of the most important one, that's the kind of information which we get traveling into other countries and communicating with people who represent other countries. For example, talking about my positive experience when I traveled to the United States for the first time. What happened to me, I was really amazed how amiable, friendly are people in general, not only my teachers and fellow students with whom I encountered in university. People typically are willing to help. Hopefully, foreign visitors encounter with a similar kind of situation when we travel to our country. And that's a good thing, that's a pleasant thing. And I appreciate this kind of friendliness which many Russians have. Still, sometimes we encounter with some kind of negative experience. We could be embarrassed or lost because we definitely do not understand what happens to us. For example, what happened to me during my first flight inside the United States. I had some carry-on baggage with me, and I was really tired because I suffered from jet lag. And when the flight attendant approached to me, it took me some time to understand what she wanted from me. And she wanted from me to put my baggage on the overhead racks, which were above the seats. Why I was slow to understand that? Because at that time in Russia, it was not allowed, like they allowed to put only some clothes on overhead racks. And I kept my baggage on the floor, as we did in Russia. And people around me, when she repeated several times her suggestion, started talking to her. Can't you understand? He doesn't speak English. I felt myself embarrassed and even a little bit lost, like, you know. And I said, I do speak English, but I cannot understand what she wants from me. So finally, I was able to understand, and somebody explained it to me. Also, I would say that compared to many other competitors, I spoke quite decent English. And when I started having my English classes in the United States, in fact, I noticed one more thing. Communicating with fellow students and professors, it was much easier for me to understand English compared, for example, what happened to me at basketball court when I had to communicate with black guys. I enjoyed how they played basketball. It was a pleasure for me. But I seldom was able to understand what they talked about because they used a lot of slang and so on and so on. We really need to be careful. We need to make our homework. and we need not to commit some blunders. And some of blunders could be really bad. As you can see, I mean, the first bullet on the slide, there are two words which are typed. And probably the first word everybody knows. Unique in Russian translation means уникальный. And the second word, pronunciation is almost absolutely the same. Phonetically, that's a very similar word, but it has a different stress. The stress is on the first syllable, not on the second one. Unique. But the meaning of this word is quite different. So a blunder which I committed. Talking about one of my classmates, that was a guy from Greece, and his name was Stratos. I told to my American friends, I like Stratos, he is a unique guy. And my American friend started laughing, and he told me, Sasha, never ever say about any other person that he is unique. Ask him why. And he said, because unique is a castrated person. Russian analog for this word is евнух. So that's just an illustration that we really need to be careful. When we think that we can perfectly speak a foreign language, in fact, it could be not the case. By the way, I don't understand why, but some of our compatriots, if they think that they can speak a certain language, if they know, few English words, a few German words, for some reason they could imagine that in any other country of the world, people should understand them, even if their knowledge is very, very limited. An embarrassing situation happened at the sociology department of St. Petersburg State University, when one of the local professors who spent several months in Germany and picked up some German words started speaking German when he was introduced to a French delegation. And as you know, historically, relations between French and Germans were quite tense, and French are very particular about their culture and their language. So he really created an awkward situation. Another source of information, which we used for developing cultural awareness. These are scholarly texts, lectures, and academic knowledge. And that's what we use for our presentation. Not today, but later I will show you that in fact it's not non-problematic. When you read different texts and different research of the same culture, sometimes you will notice some very serious contradictions. Another source of knowledge is something we encounter with in our everyday life. And it could be stereotypes. What is particular about stereotypes? Once again, later we will discuss stereotypes in some more details with you. Stereotypes has two essential features. They are simplifications and overgeneralization. What happened to stereotypes? Some features which really could be characteristic for some representatives of certain ethnic groups or nations or social groups are generalized for everybody who belongs to this group. And sometimes it could be really, sad and revealing. A story which one colleague of mine told me when he was a young person. He was supposed to travel somewhere to some kind of students' conference with a couple of other guys, and he mentioned his last name to his own mom. He was from Russian family, and she said, "Oh, looks like one of the guys you are preparing to travel with, he is a Tatarin. He has a Tartar name." And he asked, "So what?" And his mom advised him, "You will be really careful with Tartars. They're sneaky person." Why? Like, these two cultures, Russian culture and Tatar culture, are so intermingled with one another. We lived together for centuries. And in fact, even if you speak about somebody whose last name is Ivan Ivanovich Ivanov, quite often he has some facial features so that it will not be possible to discern him from a Tartar person. In fact, many Russians who think that they are 100% Russian, they have Mongoloid features, which are characteristic for Tartars and some other Mongoloid guys. So we really need to learn how not to get prey to all kinds of stereotypes. And unfortunately, stereotypes, that's something which can encounter with everywhere. When we consider different cases with you, we will analyze it in more details. But it really is rooted deeply. It sits in the family. And some people really have some ethnic, national, racial, you can continue the list, prejudices. That's a problem. Another important source of information are mass media, TV, cinema, internet, newspapers. I used to have a student at sociology department of High School of Economics who made a research on how Russians are represented in American TV serials. And to put it moderately, first of all, just funny. For example, the choice of last names could be quite predictable. If you have any idea about Star Trek, saga, hundreds of serials which many Americans watched starting from their childhood. In the very first version of the serial, there was only one Russian person. Like Star Trek is an international team of astronauts. We are traveling around the galaxy. You can easily guess what was the last name of this person. Of course, Chekhov. Because these are some Russian last names which Americans know. Chekhov, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, and probably we could easily stop at this point. The behavior could be also ridiculous, like, these persons who represent Russians, they speak and move like Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie in which he impersonated Russian police officer. Какие у вас доказательства? It became a man and became a part of our culture. But
a meme.
Yeah, thank you. But if you look at the situation from the reverse perspective, we do almost the same when we make our series about American culture or British culture or Italian culture, whatever, with very few exceptions. In fact, that old Soviet time serial about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson was accepted quite positively in the United Kingdom. They said that considering clothes and many other details, it was really made well. Okay, so what we will be doing with you, we will be comparing information from all the different sources, and we will be learning how to become culturally aware and how to develop our cross-cultural IQ. That's something which we will be busy with. Now, let's talk some more about culture. Another quiz for you. What do you think? To what country this belongs? I mean, these cubic watermelons and pentacular oranges. Give me your best guess. Do you have any ideas?
Morocco.
No.
Japan.
Definitely that's Japan. And that's something which also belongs to Japanese culture. That's how they were used to pack eggs in traditional Japanese country. Doesn't it look wonderful and beautiful? I really enjoy seeing some kind of objects like that. And now we will talk with you about material culture. Objects which surround us are essential, could tell and convey some essential information concerning our culture. Probably, I would dare to say that in Russian culture, people, absolute majority of people would not care about cubic melons or pentacular oranges. As you can see, it really needs some work because they put a special casing around oranges, watermelons, to make them either cubic or pentacular. But in Japan, quite a sizable proportion of persons would be willing to pay some extra prices. In fact, the shape, how the stuff is packed, how it's presented is very essential. People really pay attention to that. In our culture, it's something which has only passing value. We are different on that respect. So things, machine, appliances, clothes, etc., plays a very essential role in how we interact with other persons. And let's consider some of the trends which are essential. Okay, this links to the videos. Okay, let's start with automobile. In fact, some persons are not happy with the advent of automobile. They have some kind of nostalgia, recalling how great it was when humans used horses instead of automobiles. In fact, that's a kind of self-deception. Horses are nice animals, great creatures to have around. Still, because of horses, before the advent of automobile, especially in summertime, a life in a big city was really close to something which can call a torture. Have you ever considered, guys, why, when we speak about Dostoevsky novels, quite often some really bad events happen during summertime?
Because it stinks.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons. And that's why, people in Russia preferred during summertime travel to their dachas. St. Petersburg is a great city. I was born here. I love it very much. It's beautiful. But in summertime, when it's hot and humid, people would prefer to move to the countryside. And it was much worse during that time when they used horses as a means of transportation, because horses produce a lot of manure every day and everywhere. And cleaning the streets was quite a daunting task. So we should be grateful for the advent of automobiles. Still, automobiles are not just a means of transportation. Definitely, that's their very essential role, being a means of transportation. And it changed a lot, especially in the United States, because the United States was the first country in the world who started mass production of automobiles. Henry Ford and his conveyor belt line, conveyor assembly line. And Americans, by the way, it's reflected in American culture. For example, many Russians, if they are offered a good job somewhere else, not in St. Petersburg or Moscow, will be thinking, and quite often they will never make a decision to move somewhere else. For Americans, it's a simple choice. Wherever you get a better job, you will rent an automobile, and there are a lot of companies to supply this kind of service. You will load your stuff into it, and you will meet, and you move to a different state or whatever. This kind of globalization pattern already trickled down to those people who work for international companies. But in general, comparing our two countries, we are different on that respect. Besides that, in fact, automobiles changed dramatically dating and courtship patterns. They help to introduce new sexual morality. You are adult persons, and it won't be a surprise for you that many American teenagers had their first sexual intercourse at the back seat of the car who belongs to one of them. And it's possible to get a driving license in many states when a person turns 16. So they do not have to look for some kind of, opportunities, for example, when their parents left somewhere or whatever and vacated the apartment. They have much more choices on that matter. New industries appeared. And what else important? Suburbanization happened. In many countries of the world, industrial countries, people prefer living outside of the downtowns of big cities. Once again, we still have some distance to go in that dimension. And many really wealthy Russians, they live in the center of the cities, which of course has inferior ecological situation compared to living somewhere in countryside. What will come next? Well, IT development definitely makes quite a obvious suggestion that quite soon people will start implanting computer chips into their bodies. And talking about science fiction novels, science fiction movies, they already modeled a lot of situations like that. If you haven't seen this movie, it was issued several years ago, but it still has some significance. So it was launched in the year 2009. The name of the movie is Surrogates, Surrogate in Russian. In some sense, it's a kind of trivial because that's another time when Bruce Willis, you know, this actor, saves the world. Still, they modeled a really scary and interesting situation. They imagined a new world in which humans seldom leave their apartment. Why? They don't need it. Because they have beautiful and wonderful robots which impersonate them, and these robots interact with one another and are able to send information concerning kind of sensations which a person could experience if they would be doing it live. And unfortunately, in this anti-utopia, humankind got prey to this kind of situation. Of course, Bruce Willis saves everybody, but that's an issue to consider. Or you can make another choice, Westworld. That's a scary serial, which based on the same premise. What will happen to humans when technological progress, which will reach such a stage in which robots could be easily mistaken for humans. Like if you're not specifically instructed, you won't be able to discern one from another. And the process already started. For example, now those people who are willing to do it could implant a computer chip to make all kind of payments they do easily. Instead of taking your phone out of your pocket, you implant a computer chip. Or another thing, which of course could easily illustrate that computer chip could be controversial. I need to send this link for you. And then a short one, just 2 minutes, please watch it. It will take. It will take longer, just 2 minutes. That's a story of Oscar Pistorius, a person from South Africa who was double-legged amputee, but using new composite materials, he became a Paralympic champion in 100 hit running. And then a sad story happened to him. Okay, I published the link. Please watch it. I'll be back in 3 minutes. So hopefully everybody got a link to the chat, yeah? Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, guys. Okay, let's give another 60 seconds for those ones who started slower than you. And I will continue lecture. Okay, guys, so hopefully everybody finished watching. Why I decided to bring this video to your attention. Sorry if somebody thought that it's unpleasant, but that's quite a humane and inhumane story. From one point of view, when we are comparing cultures, one of the dimensions which is essential is how they treat those people who are disadvantaged by some reason. For example, how they treat amputees. And in fact, Oscar Pistorius, the person in question, for quite a period of time, he became a national hero in South Africa. And South Africa has a very complicated situation because it used to practice apartheid, which deprived human rights to the majority of local population, which were blacks, of course. And after they abandoned it finally, they really needed some kind of unifying idea. And Oscar Pistorius became one of those kind of ideas. And he was able to do it because of technological progress. In fact, one of the issues to consider was following. Oscar Pistorius, when he won his 100-meter heat, in fact, he ran faster compared to regular athletes who are built from flesh and blood. And he wanted to compete with regular athletes. And he claimed, I can run faster, why should I do it? And that's one of the issues we need to consider and decide later. Should we introduce any limits on the psychological progress? Pardon me. What should we do with GMO, genetically modified organisms? Is cloning something we should allow? How we should react to embryo cells? I have an informative video which touch upon some of these problems from Elon Musk, which we'll watch with you next time. Today probably we don't have enough time for that. But all of that are very essential and important issues. And when a certain culture, including our country, makes some kind of irrational decisions, for example, limiting GMO research, we risk to be behind because, in fact, GMO is no different from from the kind of experiments humanity practiced for many centuries, breeding better breeds of animals, kind of vegetables, fruits, or whatever. These are the same nucleic acids, the same proteins, which were recombined. People do something which exists in Mother Nature. And is it admissible, for example, to use cloning for growing replacement organs or what? That's a very controversial issue. And what about embryo cells, once again? Those people who are religious believers, they think that embryo is already a human being, so killing human beings are no good. And of course, it's related to notorious discussion between persons who support either pro-life or pro-choice point of view. Okay, so we will continue it next time. Non-material culture. Just a short interview for today, then we'll do it in more details. Values. Values are our ideas concerning ends and means of life. What is really important in our lives? How should we plan our life? For example, is family is an essential thing? For the majority of people, answer still will be yes, but recent developments is so-called child-free ideology when some people say We don't want kids, never ever. Kids is something that distracts us from our professional career. We could not really enjoy our lives when kids are around, and so on and so on. Symbols and a kind of generalization which first was suggested by Rousseau and then developed by American political scientist Robert Bellah. Symbols are special objects which are important not because of their material substance, but because of the meaning which humans ascribe to that. Some illustrations. So, speaking about civil religion, it could include, it's not a religion per se, because what makes religions different? They tend to give answers to some kind of eternal questions. For example, what is the purpose of human life? What will happen to a human being after he or she will die? And different people have different questions on that one. Civil religion could be defined as public rituals, symbols, such as national flag, ceremonies on sacred days and sacred places, monuments, battlefields, or national cemeteries. And some illustrations will follow. Let's have a look. Okay, so speaking about our country, these monuments dedicated to Vladimir Lenin are everywhere. There are hundreds of them. And definitely Soviet governments tried to create civil religion, something that will unify people. In some other countries, by the way, after the demise of Soviet Union, they reacted differently. They dismantled the statues and they brought them to a special place where they are stored. What should we do? Well, the answer depends on many circumstances. And this is not the only one. When I traveled to Budapest, there were two things which impressed me. If you know something about the history of this country, in fact, we know almost exact date when it became an independent state. It was 10th century AD, after Dominion. Some tribes, nomadic tribes, кочевники, migrated from the region which is located pretty close to Tюмень region. And in fact, Khanty and Mansi, who still live there, they speak language which is similar to Hungarian. That's not a European language, that's a different one. And they moved to Danube River when Roman province called Pannonia was settled down. They settled there, and what was, from my point of view, what was funny and interesting, when I visited National Museum in Budapest, they have a special exhibition hall which is named The Conquest of Motherland. Typically, you know, people in other countries think that motherland is not something which should be conquered, but it happened in Hungarian history. And because there were no historical records concerning how these tribes looked like, they just fantasized on that matter. And as you can see, they created something which looks like, you know, persons who are involved in opera performance in one of the Wagner's operas. These ideas of civil religion, they exist in the majority of countries in the world. For example, the United States, the president, which was elected, and it will happen in 2 weeks from now, inauguration ceremony for Mr. Biden, he makes an oath, and this oath, he mentions God, but it's not named specifically what kinds of God is in question. That's some kind of, you know, unifying idea. And talking about Bolsheviks, all their propaganda claimed that Bolsheviks are atheists. In fact, they created quite a develops a sacred religion. For example, Vladimir Lenin, they built for him a mausoleum on the Red Square, which is a kind of curious things to do. Russians never had this Egyptian tradition, preserving mummies of their leaders. Bolsheviks decided to do it. Besides a person who impersonates gods, there should be some martyrs. And talking about our city, St. Petersburg, do you recognize this monument? That's a monument to somebody whose name was Volodarsky. He was among Bolshevik leaders who was assassinated and killed in year 2018. And he was responsible for closing down, by the way, opposition newspapers, something which remains about nobody development. And finally, my time is almost over. The ultimate development of this idea is something which you can still witness in Easter Island if you travel there. Local inhabitants invested so much energy into building the statues. And every statue impersonated a certain clan. So the bigger the statue, more embedded is your clan. That finally they cut all the forest on the island and they started eating one another. Cannibalism developed because they didn't have enough resources. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Let's start at this point. My time is over. And I will meet some of you in 10 minutes during the seminar. My next lecture would be in a week from now. So once again, thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you.